Good day, mabuhay, majest day to everyone. I am Cass Agustin, your host for Abanteng Babaeng Filipina. Here with me today are seven girls who are going to join us to talk about women. Bianca, Ariane, Cass, Kriza, Nina, Thea, and Jasmine. On today's episode of Abanteng Babaeng Filipina, we are to discuss gender inequality. Well, folks, listeners, we will be tackling subjects and issues in regards to gender inequality in our society. Why does this really happen? And should this topic still be voiced out? How it seems that nowadays women are still being mistreated, still experience harassment, abuse, gender discrimination, and many more problems that society set forth to.
We are to provide awareness and information in regards to women in general. Shall we start?
And we shall, Bianca. So, let's start with you. Could you please tell us about its global context?
Sure thing, Cass. In the global context, SDG 5 aims to address the pervasive issue that affects every aspect of life, including education, employment, health, and participation in decision making processes of women and girls. According to World Economic Forum, 22.6% of parliamentary seats worldwide are held by women. And women's labor force participation rate is only 54% of the male rate. Oh, another example would be Scarlett Johansson in the Hollywood industry. In 2018, despite Johansson's similar levels of experience and job responsibilities with her male co-stars Chris Evans and Chris Hemsworth for the film Avengers Infinity War, she was actually paid less. That is totally inequality right there, don't you guys think? In fact, she is also an advocate for gender pay equity in Hollywood. Achieving gender equality globally means enabling everyone, regarding of gender, to realize their greatest potential. This gives equal chances for men, women, and others. Everyone in general, in terms of access to paid work, education, and genuine decision-making authority in both public and private sectors.
Wow. In its global context, Bianca, I could really see how gender inequality is. Well, from what I've heard from you, women really have potential and have so much more to give to this world. Avengers Infinity War is one of my fave movies. Lol, but I really didn't know that she was paid less. So moving on forward, how about you, Aryan? Could you please enlighten us with its Filipino national context?
Of course. Well, as you know, Cass, in the context of Philippines, despite the progress and actions that have been made by the biggest organizations in the government itself, like Magna Carta of Women and Gender and Development Budget Policy, the topic of gender inequality remains a big challenge for us Filipinas to climb. There is, in fact, still a very long journey in achieving the true essence of gender equality here in the Philippines. The women of the Philippines continue to face several struggles in the different areas and industries. Example of this are in sports, in STEM-related careers, and in politics itself. To further profound my statement that I just made, an instances or an example of this is when women enter politics. They frequently struggle in terms of lack of support, maybe financial. Example of this is their fundings in their advocacies and campaigns. It is also a problem for them to find supporters as there is an ongoing prejudice that has been embedded in our society. A very evident example of this is our past Vice President Lani Robredo, just previously last year on her journey on the political run for the president position. Doesn't this sound baffling?
Yeah, it really sounds bizarre to me hearing this honestly. Well, I love Lenny Robredo myself, and it's really scary how society has turned into this. To add more things, how about you, Cass?
Cass, well, I was looking into this issue, namely the situation of women in Mindanao. It saddens me that women face such possible situations that harms their well-being. I've actually just read an article by Maria R.V.B. Banyes from UP Diliman entitled Poverty, War, and Peace, Lumad and Muslim Women's Issues in Mindanao. And allow me to share what I've learned from it. It was stated in the article that poverty is said to be most severe in the provinces where the indigenous peoples and Muslims reside, which is Mindanao, wherein half of its population are females. Most Lumad mothers resort to stashing the Christmas presents received from the Davao City government and begging in the streets. We have encountered them, right? When we're on the way to the mall, they would knock on our car windows. And I think that situation, every time I encounter it, it makes me reflect that I have to acknowledge my privilege. And these are the ways they deal with poverty. Their situations actually demonstrate the feminization of poverty. That is very sad to hear, right? To add, Lumad and Muslim women in Mindanao suffer not only from poverty but also from violence. For instance, displacement due to evacuations caused by armed conflicts give rise to problems and risks such as lack of water and privacy, sexual violence, trauma caused by death of family members, and loss of livelihood. The Alimat, or Muslim Women Religious Scholars, was organized in partnership with women leaders from civil society, academe, government, youth, Malik Islam, and indigenous peoples. At the community level, the women Muslims of Sulu intend to restore the moral leadership of the Alimat to propagate Islamic values and peace education. Because according to them, there is no sexism in Islam based on the Quran, and it promotes gender equality and respect for human beings. But because of biased interpretations of this text, Muslim women are marginalized. Every day, Lumad and Muslim women in Mindanao deal with poverty and violence, and they struggle to do everything only to survive and attain peace and development.
It really can be seen that women get set aside so differently in our society. It really saddens me how women in Mindanao struggle to be just them, women. Well, what really is the importance of discussing this, Kriza? Can you please share with us?
Okay, so I'll first define what gender equality is. So basically, gender equality is about ensuring that every individual has an equal opportunity to make the most of their lives and talents. The importance of discussing this is to make society attain better development in all aspects when both genders are entitled to similar opportunities. Moreover, to ensure fairness, strategies and measures must often be available to compensate for women's historical and social disadvantages that prevent women and men from otherwise operating on a level playing field.
That is all true, Krisa. So, gender inequality can manifest in various forms. In many societies, gender inequality is deeply ingrained and can be difficult to change. However, there have been some positive developments in recent years, such as increased awareness of the issue and greater support for gender equality initiatives. One of the challenges in addressing gender inequality is the persistent gender stereotypes that exist in many cultures. These stereotypes can lead to unequal treatment of individuals based on their gender, and they can also limit the opportunities and aspirations of individuals based on their gender identity. Despite these challenges, there have been some positive developments in recent years, such as increased support for women's rights and greater awareness of the issue of gender inequality. There has also been progress in addressing some specific forms of gender inequality, such as the gender pay gap and the lack of representation of women in political and leadership positions. Overall, while there is still much work to be done, there are reasons to be optimistic about the future of gender equality.
Spot on, Nina. Well, issues such as financial inequality, discrimination, and lack of opportunities are all significant challenges that we women face in the workplace. In terms of financial inequality, women on average earn less than men around the world due to factors such as occupational segregation, wherein women are more likely to work in low paying fields. Additionally, women are paid less for doing the same work as men. Women also experience discrimination in their workplace, such as being subject to harassment and hostility, as we are viewed to be weak. We also face barriers to career advancement as we lack the access to training and opportunities for leadership roles, which can lead to a result of fewer women in top positions and lack of diversity in decision making.
Thanks, girls, for your insights. And now for our next segment, can please each of you describe how we can apply these Christian moral principles into solving the social issue? Let's see who I'm gonna start with. How about you, Aryan?
Sure thing, Cass. The principles of Christian morality could give us somehow enlightenment in facing these kinds of hurdles. With the right application and knowledge of conscience, we can fight through discriminations and stereotypes. Conscience allows us to judge our actions, whether it's morally right or not. In the context of discrimination and stereotyping women, conscience would help us acknowledge our actions and assess it. In accordance, this would help us work in making decisions that will project the common good and stop the displaying of discrimination and stereotyping towards women in the different industries that we all have. This also helps us properly judge a situation and act against further practice of incorrect conscience, as we all know from the Christian morality, learning, and subject. I think that if we spread the significance of the use of correct conscience, perhaps we could live in a world, right? How about you, Krisa? What do you feel about this?
Well, we all have the power to contribute to a genuinely inclusive society that values gender equality with a mission to empower women to have human dignity by providing them with equal opportunities, capacitizing them with skills, and stopping discrimination for all men and women. Because human dignity is a universal fundamental principle of a human person. So every human being is created in the image of God and therefore worthy of respect as a member of the human family.
I think so too, Kriza. I myself believe that we have to realize that we are historical subjects. As time goes on, we can distinguish how the general moral norms are changing. These moral norms are applicable to all persons, new developments in society and culture, and new ways of political and economic organization can help us understand what it means to be fully human in the world. Therefore, if we remove the thought that gender can hinder one's actions and goals, then we humans can develop moral norms and become better human persons in our society. Being directed towards others is an indication of being a human person.
I definitely agree. Every person is equal in their worth and value in the eyes of God, but at the same time, each person has their own unique abilities and purpose in life. All of us are equal in our essential growth, regardless of differences in our society, such as gender, race, ethnicity, religion, or any other characteristic. Also, discrimination towards women has been prevalent in various forms over time. However, many religions promote the idea of treating human beings with respect and dignity despite gender. The lack of respect for women goes against the teaching of many religions and is considered immoral and sinful. It is crucial to raise awareness about gender discrimination and advocate for gender equality, such as promoting women's rights and empowering them to reach their full potential.
Absolutely. Understanding natural law is also crucial in solving issues like financial inequality. Natural law refers to the principle of justice and fairness that are inherent in nature and apply to all human beings. When we understand and apply these principles, we can create a society that is more equitable and just for everyone. Financial inequality is a complex issue, but one of the main causes is the unequal distribution of resources and opportunities. Natural law teaches us that everyone has the right to access these resources and opportunities, and that they should be distributed in a fair and just manner. By understanding natural law, we can work to create economic policies and systems that promote fairness and equality, such as progressive taxation, access to education and healthcare, and living wages. We can also work to address systematic issues like discrimination and inequality of opportunity that perpetuates financial inequality. Ultimately, by embracing natural law, we can build a more just and equitable society for all. It may not be a quick fix, but it is a step in the right direction.
Very well said, Jasmine. From a freedom of perspective, this means that there should be equal access to opportunities to succeed in their chosen industry. From a freedom perspective, women should be free from discrimination and unequal treatment. This means that women should not be subjected to stereotypes, bias, or unequal treatment based on their gender. Women should also have the opportunity to participate without fear of violence, harassment, or other forms of harm. In the context of less opportunities for women, achieving both freedom for and freedom from requires addressing systematic barriers and biases that limit women's access to opportunities for success. This can involve efforts to increase representation and leadership of women in organizations, as well as efforts to eliminate gender based discrimination and practices. Overall, achieving freedom for and freedom from the issue is essential for promoting gender equality and creating a more inclusive and equitable environment.
As we venture onto the last parts of this podcast, I would like to state that in issues like this, we have to understand what our personal responsibility really is. An understanding of our personal responsibility enables us to understand the wrong practices and perceptions other people or the older generation has established to us or our side and know how to make a change. Instead of letting it continue, why not take action instead?
I super duper agree. I strongly believe that gender inequality is a serious issue that affects everyone. We can take action by educating ourselves and others on the issue, challenging gender stereotypes and biases, supporting policies that promote gender equality, and advocating for equal treatment of women. Men also should have a role to play in promoting gender equality. Let's work towards creating a world where everyone, regardless of gender, has equal opportunities and is treated with respect and dignity. Isn't that what you want?
Wow, hearing you girls talk about gender equality and being informed and aware with this issue just brings how women are capable of so many things but get underlooked by men and others in different aspects in our society. I really appreciate each and every single one of you for sharing your wisdom to our podcast today. Yes, we all have a role to play for our future generations to show them and give them a better and brighter future.
Woo! That was a great discussion, girls. I was actually sweating and I'm so stressed. So stressed out after everything that I've learned. Anyways, allow me to encapsulate everything we shared and learned today. As Bianca said, gender inequality affects us on such a large scale, which includes the whole globe. Aryan shared that there are few initiatives made in the Philippines, such as Magna Carta of Women and Gender and Development Budget Policy, to battle gender inequality. Yet, gender inequality remains a challenge. Also, women in Mindanao and in the other parts of country are portrayed to be the face of poverty and they experience all kinds of violence. Cass is definitely right that we all have a role to play for our future generations. We can achieve a future worth headed to if we are to instill the values of Christian morality. This is true as first, conscience will help us work in making decisions that project the common good and stop the display of discrimination and stereotyping towards women. Second, human dignity is a universal fundamental principle of a human person. Every human being is created in the image of God and therefore worthy of respect as a member of the human family. Third, when we are to understand the principles of natural law, we can create a society that is more equitable and just for everyone. Authentic freedom tells us that it is not simply doing what we want, it is not the right to say or do anything, but to do the good. So, in order for women to be free from discrimination and unequal treatment, or women to not be subjected to stereotypes, bias based on their gender, for women to live without fear of violence, harassment, or other forms of harm, we must act as a collective and do good.
What do we say, girls? Abanteng babae, abanteng babaeng Filipina.
Abante babae, abante 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 babaeng Filipino.
Abante babae, abante babaeng Filipina.
Abante babae, abante babaeng Filipina.
Abante babae, abante babaeng Filipina.
Thank you, folks, and a Majesty Day to all of you.
Yay!